Romania, conflict nears NATO's frontier. NATO has responded in a measured manner to Russia's assault on Ukrainian harbors mere 200 meters from the Romanian boundary. Specialists believe the Russian offensives entail more than simply impeding Ukraine's grain exports. As the sun rose on Monday, pilots and laborers on the Romanian banks of the river across from the Ukrainian Danube harbor of Reni stared in disbelief at the heavens, recording a cluster of advancing drones with their mobile phones. As the tiny specks in the sky drew nearer and their high-frequency drone intensified, the men's surprise rapidly morphed into fear. "They're going to detonate them here," one man exclaimed. "They're targeting the harbor." A short distance away, the glimmer of an initial explosion was followed by the sound of an enormous blast. "Let's evacuate, boys," another man urged. The conflict has just arrived at Romania's boundary. As dawn broke over the Danube Delta, Russia dispatched 15 Iranian Shahed 136 drones to strike the harbor of Reni. Some of the drones were intercepted by Ukrainian air defenses, others detonated in the harbor, wrecking warehouses and silos used to store Ukrainian grain. 7 individuals were wounded, and a Romanian freighter was harmed in the assault. The harbor of Izmail further downstream was also targeted, but it remained unscathed. At the verge of NATO's frontier. This is the closest Russia's aggression against Ukraine has gotten to NATO's external frontier. Reni is located near the boundary among Ukraine, Romania, and the Republic of Moldova, roughly 120 kilometers, 75 miles, west of the point where the Danube enters the Black Sea. The grain facilities in the harbor, which were destroyed, are just 200 meters, 218 yards, from the midpoint of the river that demarcates Ukraine's boundary with NATO-member Romania and 400 meters from the Romanian riverbank. The Moldovan Danube harbor of Giurgiu is a mere 5 kilometers upstream, and the Romanian city of Galați, which boasts a population of 220,000, is just 10 kilometers distant as the bird flies. It is pure luck that the Shahed drones, notorious for their inaccuracy, did not land on the NATO side of the boundary. Russia amplifies attacks on Ukrainian harbors. The assault on Reni marks an escalation in Russia's campaign of airstrikes on Ukrainian port cities, which began a week ago in Odesa and Mykolaiv, and has primarily targeted the infrastructure required to export Ukrainian grain. Since the commencement of the conflict, Russian rockets have traversed Romanian airspace, Russian rocket debris has fallen in the Republic of Moldova, and a Russian rocket has struck a Polish forest. However, this is the first instance when Russia has intentionally targeted a civilian objective so near to NATO's external boundary in an area devoid of significant military infrastructure. An attempt to cripple Ukraine's grain exports. Vladimir Putin aspires to disrupt Ukraine's grain exports by all means necessary, and simultaneously, retaliate against the fact that certain sanctions against Russia, like those in the banking sector, remain in place, noted Bucharest-based political scientist Armand Gosu, a lecturer in Russian and Soviet history and diplomacy at the University of Bucharest. Ukraine heavily relies on the income from the sale of grain and oilseed and has 3 export routes for both commodities. The first and most critical route, even after Russia's invasion of Ukraine on February 24, 2022, is through the Black Sea harbors of Odesa and Mykolaiv. This route was kept open owing to an internationally mediated deal with Russia the previous year. Since the war's outset, Ukraine has also been utilizing a second route, overland through Romania, Hungary, Slovakia, and Poland, to transport its grain to the global market. The third export route revolves around the Ukrainian Danube harbors of Reni and Izmail and the portion of the Black Sea within Romania's territorial waters. Ukraine intends to significantly develop this route. Ukraine's principal Danube harbors. The harbor in the city of Reni, population 18,000, in Ukraine's southwestern corner is somewhat difficult to access by land, but is the more navigable of the 2 ports. Even larger freighters can sail from Reni to the Black Sea through Romania's Sulina Canal, the most developed arm of the river in the Danube Delta. The harbor of Izmail, population 70,000, is situated on the northern Chilia arm of the Danube Delta. Although it is more accessible by land than Reni, its harbor cannot accommodate many large freighters. A project to deepen specific parts of the Danube in the region, such as the Novostambolsk/Bystroy Canal, is advancing at a slow pace and has been a point of contention between Romania and Ukraine for several years. Putin's aim to highlight NATO's hesitation. When viewed from this perspective, the risk for Russia of attacking Reni, given its location on the border with NATO-member Romania, seems considerably larger than the benefit. According to Armand Gosu, the motive behind the attack was not solely to paralyze Ukraine's grain exports. Putin aims to demonstrate his indifference towards how close his assaults are to NATO territory, Gosu informed DW. Additionally, Putin's objective is to underscore NATO's indecision. Romanians shocked by nearness of assault. The Romanian public reacted with alarm and unease to the assault on Reni, not just because the conflict has approached their nation so closely, but also due to the deep historical, linguistic, and cultural ties between the populations of the Danube Delta. Over half of Reni's residents, for example, are ethnic Romanians. In stark contrast to the public's response, official reactions in Romania were noticeably calm. Romanian President Klaus Iohannis briefly tweeted his robust condemnation of Russia's assaults on his country's border, while the Romanian Defense Ministry issued a statement asserting there was no direct military threat to the national territory. The NATO-Ukraine Council convened on Wednesday to discuss the security situation in the Black Sea region. It sternly condemned Russia's decision to back out from the Black Sea grain deal and Moscow's cold-blooded drone assault on the Ukrainian grain storage facility in the Danube port city of Reni, and firmly, but non-aggressively, reaffirmed its readiness to defend every inch of Allied territory from any aggression. Armand Gosu justified these muted responses to DW by stating that NATO seeks to avoid escalation at any cost, adding that the elites in the West have grown weary of the conflict and fear Russia's collapse more than a Ukrainian defeat.